You're listening to an interview taken from the Tonic talk show and podcast, heard exclusively on Zoomer Radio. To download or listen to the original episode or other episodes of The Tonic, please visit thetonic.ca.
Greg Lindberg is an entrepreneur, philanthropist, and author turned wellness advocate. He attended Yale University, where he completed his bachelor's degree in economics in 1993. He's acquired and transformed more than 100 companies that were either failing or underperforming and are now worth billions of dollars. His experiences and challenges as a business leader inspired him to author 2 books, Failing Early and Failing Often, How to Turn Your Adversity into Advantage, published in 2020, and 633 Days Inside, Lessons on Life and Leadership, published in 2022. For the last few years, his mission has been focused on helping people reach their ultimate potential through wellness, longevity, and leadership, housing all of these initiatives under his new brand called Lifelong Labs. Welcome to the show, Greg. How are you?
Wonderful. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. So how did you develop your passion for wellness and longevity? How did that come about?
That's a great question. I've always been interested in wellness and longevity, and it really hit home for me when I was sentenced to an 87-month prison term, which was later vacated, and I was released when the convictions were thrown out. I was sitting there thinking, I've got 87 months. How do I turn that time back? How do I turn back the clock of time? How do I get 87 months back? And I realized I had to come up with an anti-aging program. So by the time I got out, which unfortunately was only 633 days, 21 months, not 87 months, I'd be younger than the day I walked in. And miraculously, after studying all the literature and reading thousands of medical journal articles while I was sitting in a prison cell, I was able to come up with a program that quite literally has reversed aging.
Okay, so maybe we'll bring you back another day and we can discuss your jail term. In my previous incarnation, I was a litigator, so there may be some synergies there. So did you actually start your wellness journey while you were incarcerated, or did it happen after?
Well, it's a great question. I was studying before I went in. I was really studying something called the sirtuin activating compounds, which are the compounds that activate when you're hungry. And the latest longevity research is all about these things. NAD is an example of them, NMN, nicotinamide mononucleotide. All these compounds are really what we call sirtuin activating compounds. They activate mitochondrial biogenesis and neurogenesis. And there's a lot of compounds you can take. On the outside, today you can get NAD injections. Of course, when you check into a federal prison, none of that's available. You're lucky to get vitamins. So I had to create old-fashioned, without any compounds, a way to achieve this longevity. And all the sirtuin activating compounds, they have one thing. They're hunger mimics. They mimic the feeling of being hungry. So I decided it's really simple. I'll just restrict my calories. I don't have the compounds to restrict my calories. I'll just do it manually and stop eating. So that's what I did, and the results were amazing.
So are you talking about sort of fasting or, time-triggered fasting? Is that what you're talking about?
Precisely. Calorie restriction has been studied in tens of thousands of studies and medical journal articles. And calorie restriction and intermittent fasting and time-restricted eating and long fasting, all these different names for it, comes down to one thing. When you move from a glucose metabolism to a ketogenic metabolism and you start to burn your triglycerides, which is your fat, instead of your sugar, your body repairs itself. It's quite simple. We all have a built-in repair mechanism. Every one of us, we just have to stop eating for at least 24, maybe 48 hours to burn up all that glucose. It really helps if you exercise. That burns your energy as well. It burns the glucose faster. When you move to the ketogenic state, the ketogenic metabolism faster, and your body repairs itself through a process of mitophagy, which is repair of the mitochondria, through autophagy, which is repair of the cell, and these little organelles in the cell called the mitochondria, they come to life when they're starving. When they're fed fat and they sense starvation, bacteria come to life. Bacteria are actually immortal. Bacteria, there's a lot of studies on them. The mitochondria are actually ancient bacteria that got assumed into the cell. So all this stuff happens when you simply stop eating.
Okay, so when you throw out a phrase like stop eating, I want to understand better what that means, because it's going to mean different things to different people. What does it mean to
Correct.
you? Are you doing the intermittent fasting, or are you doing straight up fasting?
So when I say stop eating, the key to fasting is to embrace the principle of hormesis. And hormesis is defined as a stress on the body that doesn't kill you. And so if this ultimately kills you, you stop eating forever, you're going to die, right? Or you stop eating for 30 days, you might die. So they've done studies up to 10 days very safe for most people. Of course, don't do any of this without consulting your physician. The punchline is the program I developed, I started doing 24-hour, then I went to 48-hour water-only fast, and then I went to 66, 72, and by the end, within about 6 months, I was doing 96 hours a week. And to make it easy, I do 90 hours a week. This week, I'm on my 97th consecutive 90-plus hour per week fast. For the last 97 weeks, I fasted 90 hours a week. So that's like 8,000 hours of fasting totally. And I literally had gray hair. When I started this process, my hair is dark red naturally now.
Okay.
My body has been transformed to that of maybe a late 30-year-old at age 53 here.
Okay, so you've talked about the fasting. What are you eating when you finally get to it?
It's really important to be very scientific about your feast because you haven't eaten anything in 4 days, and your body's very sensitive. The nutrient exposure is the 10x. If you take 100 milligrams of vitamin C, it's like taking 10,000. Your body is starving, so everything is magnified. So you got to be very careful. You got to do your food intolerances, your food allergies. So I tailor my feast to exactly what my current food intolerances are and my food allergies are. So I get my blood tested every couple months to assess all that with a really good 250-panel food allergy test and food intolerance test. Lots of proteins and no sugar. Zero sugar.
Are you on a ketogenic diet or are you eating everything?
It's not ketogenic. No, it's just I cut out dairy. I cut out sugar. I eat a lot of complex carbohydrates, a lot of vegetables and those kinds of things. But sugar is very hard. When you eat sugar during your feast, starting your fast is like coming off a drug. You get depressed, you get cranky, you get angry, you can't sleep. And if you don't do any sugar while you're on your feast, none, not honey, not anything, not even the fake sugars, like monk fruit. You only do a couple pieces of fruit, that kind of thing. It's a much easier transition from feast to fast because sugar is highly addictive.
Okay, so how quickly, so you say you went from gray to red hair, and I presume there's other changes to your physique as well. How quickly did those changes come once you started this regimen?
That's a great question. I had periodic limb movement disorder, which is the shaking of the legs, and it was pre-Parkinson's. I was taking a heavy dose of Mirapex when I checked into prison. Within 6 months of doing these 90-hour week fasts, I came off that medicine, and the dopamine receptors in my neurons had been fully repaired by mitochondrial biogenesis. So it was about 6 months, a major health change. I don't take any prescriptions now, and so it's about 6 months, and about that same amount of time, 6 months into it, I saw a hair growing out of my head that was gray on the tip and dark red at the base. And that was my eureka moment. It's like, holy cow. I asked a good friend, I was like, what is give me one incontrovertible piece of evidence that this anti-aging program works. And he said, without question, when your gray hair turns red. And I said, this is it. Here, I pulled that hair out. I kept it. Here's a piece of hair that's growing in. New hair is red. Old hair is gray. And now today, I probably have a few gray hairs left, but you can't even see it anymore. It's crazy how well this works.
So, how shall I put this? I'm going to play devil's advocate for a bit. The type of fasting that you're recommending, the people who would subscribe to lifelong labs and enter into the process and whatever, are the expectations that they should be fasting for as long as you are? Is that the plan?
No, and that's a great question. I'm glad you asked that. Any amount of fasting, just like any amount of exercising, is important. Get out and just do a daily walk. Just eat one meal a day. Do the 18 hours of fasting, 6 hours of meals. Any little bit, life is incremental. Any little bit helps. I think an 18-hour fast and a 6-hour feast period per day will add 10 or 20 years onto your life. That's what the studies say. I think a 2-day fast, if you do a 1-week, 48-hour fast, I think that'll add many decades onto your life. And if you go 60, 70 hours a week, that'll start to reverse aging. And at 90 hours a week, very extreme, and it took me a year to get up to that level or longer, you can actually see month to month the reversing of the aging. You can see your wrinkles going away on your skin. You can see the collagen coming back. I had a divot on my nose that's filling in because there's more collagen. You can see the hair turning your natural color again. You can see your muscles getting sharper, your brain getting sharper from the neurogenesis. Everything's working better. Your testosterone going up if you're a man. It's profound.
Time for one last question, and that is if somebody's interested in what we're discussing today, what is the best way to get more information? Where should they go?
My goal as an advocate, I'm not trying to make any money. You can go to my website and download my book for free at greglindberg.com. My goal is to spread the word on this and to help people achieve their inner greatness. So one thing I noticed when I was in a federal prison, there's a greatness within every single one of us. And that greatness starts with health and wellness. So the information's out there. I've done a bunch of videos. There's a free book download. Start small. Start today. It's transformational.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me. Enjoyed it.